What's up, everyone? I'm Andrew and welcome back to the channel. Tax season is upon us once again, and if you know anything about taxes, you know they can be quite convoluted and difficult. With the tax law changing each year, it doesn't seem to get any easier. But does this mean you need to hire an accountant to get the job done? We'll dive into it on this edition of Easy Money. Taxes can be very difficult to navigate. You have state taxes, federal taxes, property taxes, income taxes. For our purposes today, we'll be focusing primarily on income taxes. Once a year, we have the pleasure of filling out government forms to try to pay as little as possible to Uncle Sam. Don't get me wrong, I believe taxes are a good thing, and I have no problem paying my fair share. With that said, I also don't want to pay any more money than I need to. 30 to 40 years ago, every financial advisor would recommend you to get a CPA, a certified public accountant. This accountant could navigate the confusing waters of tax law and help ensure you properly file your taxes. But things have changed, and we now live in the time of technology. It has never been simpler to file your own taxes, and in most cases, it can be quite cost-effective.
But when does it make sense to pay someone to file your taxes, and when should you do it on your own?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. For many Americans, it makes sense to do your own taxes. Honestly, the actual act of doing your taxes is very easy, especially if you're financially organized. If you can read a form and input information onto a computer screen, you can do your taxes. And thanks to all kinds of tax software options, it's become even easier and very affordable. There are free options if you make less than $62,000 per year, and the average price for paid versions are about $60. If you have a straightforward tax situation, it just makes sense to do it yourself because it will be much more cost effective. So what does a straightforward tax situation look like? Here are some common examples of when it makes sense to do it yourself. You're single, you have a job, and not much else. You don't own real estate, you don't own a business, you don't have any complicated investments, and you have the patience to just sit down and do it. Essentially, the smaller your financial portfolio, the easier it is to file your own taxes. Everyone should have a basic understanding of how taxes work. If you don't yet, because maybe it's your first time filing your taxes, take it slow and learn about what you're doing. This will just make future years even easier. Now that we've had some examples of when doing your taxes makes sense, when should you pay somebody to do your taxes for you? If you're going to pay someone to do your taxes, you should be looking for help that is more than just data entry. Yes, while a tax preparer is there to actually file your taxes and type in all the info into the boxes, they should be an expert, somebody you're going to hire to help navigate you through the process. Some common examples of when it makes sense to pay someone to do your taxes are when you make over $200,000 a year, you've had a major life event such as marriage, divorce, new children, you've started a business, you own complicated investments like partnerships or trusts, you have a question that you just can't answer, you own real estate. The goal of paying someone to do your taxes should be twofold. Of course, getting your actual taxes done, but also getting help and advice. This is the biggest benefit to having someone do your taxes for you. If you find yourself paying to get your taxes done, and they aren't guiding or helping you get the most out of your taxes, well, maybe you need to look for a new person. Some common areas where a paid professional can help include optimizing your accounts to lower your tax burden, ensuring that you qualify for tax credits and deductions, or that you take all the credits and deductions you're qualified for. This is a big one since these change every year. An expert will understand the tax code and the opportunity you can take advantage of. They should also help you keep accurate records of complicated investments, such as partnerships or trusts, and help you optimize your business structure to lower your taxes. If you find yourself wanting to use write-offs or tax credits, it may be time to look for a professional. I have used a CPA for the last 7 years. One of the benefits to utilizing a tax professional is they have their finger on the pulse of the tax code. For example, we had all of our paperwork together and everything ready to file by this mid-February. But our CPA knew a new piece of legislation was about to pass that might qualify us for an additional $1,000 tax credit. Because he knew what was going on in the world of tax, we waited to file our taxes for a few weeks to see if we'd qualify for that tax benefit. Unless you're super into tax code and legislation, there would have been no way for us to know about this. Many of the tax softwares would not even be aware or have their software updated. Had we used the software, we would have missed out on the $1,000 tax credit. This is just one of the benefits of using a tax professional. Once you've decided you need someone to prepare your taxes, well, who can you go to? Essentially, anyone is legally able to prepare your taxes for you. I know several people whose parent or sibling or a friend will do it for them. It is good to note that if they are charging you to file your taxes for you, they must have a PTIN, Preparer Tax Identification Number. If they're volunteering or doing it for free out of the kindness of their hearts, they don't need to have a PTIN. But whether you hire a friend or a professional, I highly recommend you get involved and understand what's going on and be sure the person preparing your taxes knows what they're doing. Over 80% of people who use tax preparers never ask about their credentials. And most people have never asked their tax preparer if they would represent them in a tax audit. That's amazing, considering that hiring a tax preparer means sharing details about everything from your income to your bank accounts, your marriage status, your kids, your social security number. And if something does go awry and the IRS decides to do an audit, you want to be sure you're getting what you pay for, and in this case, representation. Do your research. Find someone qualified and has a good track record. When I set out to find my CPA, I researched all of the local CPAs in the area. I narrowed that down to those that specialized in the areas of business and investments that I have. The best credentials to look for in a tax preparer is one that not only has their PTIN, but someone who's also a certified public accountant, licensed attorney, enrolled agent, or who has completed the IRS annual filing season program. I highly recommend working with a CPA that also has a law degree. They'll have JD next to the CPA on their business card. This is an excellent thing to look for since most states will not allow your CPA to discuss legal information with you, even if that information is financial. A CPA with their JD allows them to speak freely about all things financial. A tax preparer that doesn't have their JD can only give limited tax and investing advice. They understand the tax code and they can help you take the right tax deductions and credits, but they cannot legally give you advice on what business type is best to set up, what investment options can help you the best, especially when it comes to taxes. Take this all into consideration when choosing the right tax preparer. What's the cost? Preparing your own taxes can run anywhere from $0 to $75. A good CPA will typically charge somewhere between $100 to $200 to prepare your taxes for you. A CPA JD will run anywhere from $350 to $700 for tax prep and can charge hourly for planning and advising costs. But they can also set up businesses for you, set up trusts and partnerships, prepare wills, and more. As cool as it may be to have a CPA or someone fancy doing your taxes, be sure you're not overpaying. If you're single with no job and little to no investments, it wouldn't make financial sense to hire a CPA JD. You'd be spending $500 for something you can do for free, or at least under $60. Make sure you're using the right tax preparer for you and your situation. The more complicated your finances become, the more a tax professional makes sense. Just be sure you're not spending money you don't have to. In the same breath, don't hesitate to use a professional if needed. I fought it for a few years because I didn't want to pay what I thought was an overpriced fee. Plus, I felt confident in my tax knowledge. Turns out, I didn't know enough and the CPA was able to find us thousands of dollars in tax benefits due to our rental property that I just didn't know existed. Whether or not you hire someone to do your taxes ultimately depends on your needs and what your financial portfolio looks like. When I was first starting out, I prepared my own taxes using tax software like TurboTax. Once real estate and other investments came into play, I began to work with a CPA. And now that I'm branching off into more rental properties, larger investments, and other business opportunities, I've upgraded to a CPA JD. It really depends on what you're doing and what your goals are. So don't use what you don't need. It is so important to understand taxes. You don't have to know the nuances and details, but even if you pay someone to prepare your taxes, you are personally responsible for the accuracy of the information provided. A tax preparer can help you, but you need to make sure it's right. Make sure that you do a thorough review of your tax return before you file, no matter if you do it yourself or if you pay a professional to help you. Taxes can be confusing, and they don't have to be. Take a look at your financial portfolio and choose the help that's best for you. As always, I'm glad you stayed to the end of the video. If you know anyone this information can help, please share it. And be sure to tap that like button. It really does help more people gain exposure to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe to ensure you're always in the know to finding that easy money. I'm Andrew, this is Easy Money, and now it's time to invest in yourself.